On Thursday, President Donald Trump declared that Antifa, short for anti fascist, is now being designated as a terror group. That's right, a terror group. Over on Truth Social, he posted this. I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also strongly be recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention on this matter. So, wait, Antifa. Somehow a terrorist organization. Obviously, there's a lot of problems with this, but the big one, is the fact that Antifa is not real. It doesn't actually exist, at least not as an organization. It exists as an idea. Okay, and it is an idea. It is an ideology that is counter to another ideology. It is literally the antithesis of fascism. Okay, against fascism. That's what the anti is. They are not an official organization. They do not have a hierarchical structure. They're actually incredibly decentralized, more anarchist in nature. And look, by definition, of course, anarchists do not have a leader or a structure. But again, it is an ideology of being against fascism. So, look, if you're anti-Antifa, you are by definition pro-fascist. I mean, that's what that turns out to be, okay? And so now there are other problems here. According to a Georgetown professor named Bruce Hoffman, Antifa, they said, is a dubious candidate for designation as a terror organization, since the law, the thing that we're all supposed to follow, by the way, only allows foreign terrorist groups to be designated as such. Yeah. Now, that, of course, would be a problem if Donald Trump actually cared about the law, which he doesn't seem to. Hoffman, who is also a senior fellow for counterterrorism and homeland security at the Council of Foreign Relations, said the Trump administration would have to change the law, federal law specifically, through an act of Congress in order to classify Antifa as a terror organization. Now, if they manage to do that, that could lead to some pretty significant and dangerous consequences. According to Malcolm Nance, a former U.S. Navy counterterrorism intelligence operator, this move to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization could set the stage to, quote, designate any American as a terrorist. Well, I think that's kind of the point. I think that's kind of the whole idea behind all this. I mean, the administration would love nothing more than the power to be able to designate anyone that they do not like as a terrorist. So, I mean, better watch out, Jimmy Kimmel. Okay? Because suddenly they're going to be like, this comedian, what a terrorist. I mean, it's not like they haven't tried to do that already. I mean, lately, many people on the right, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shooting, have labeled, Stephen Miller specifically, has labeled the Democratic Party a domestic terrorist organization. The Democratic Party. Seriously. But that's what they're trying to do. This idea is directly from Stephen Miller. Okay? And now, speaking of the right wing, by the way, the head of the poorly named Freedom Caucus, because they don't really care about freedom, Chairman Andy Harris claimed that this designation would, quote, protect communities and enable law enforcement to investigate those who fund them and stop the lawlessness once and for all. Well, in order to stop the lawlessness, you'd actually have to stop this administration from doing a lot of what they're doing right now, because there's a lot of lawlessness there. But again, you really can't, find any funding for Antifa, because there is no funding for Antifa. Okay? So that investigation will be over pretty darn quickly. All right? Now, that said, Florida Senator Rick Scott posted this. Antifa is like a group of arsonists masquerading as firefighters. Thank you, President Trump, for designating Antifa as a major terrorist organization, which again, they actually can't, because it would require changes in Congress, as I already mentioned. All right. Look, here's the thing. Considering how Antifa is not an actual organization, but it is an ideology that is in response to, again, another ideology, I'm not exactly sure how any of this would protect communities. Look, the reality is most of the political violence, the majority of it, does come from the far right. And I'm talking about anti-government groups, anti-abortion groups, etc. All right? About 75% from 2013 to 2022. So, I mean, that's that's where the violence is coming from. Mostly from the right. Mostly from the far right. And again, I'm not talking about your average conservative that's like, I don't know, man, I just don't like regulations or taxes. That's not who is doing the violence. Who is doing the violence are these, for example, the sovereign citizens groups, okay, who don't believe the laws of the U.S. should apply to them because they're special or something. And of course, you have people who are super anti-abortion, you people that, QAnon, Proud Boys, all those groups, people that are in those groups that have either threatened violence, nearly done violence, like the guy that tried to break into a pizza place to try to rescue the children, but there was no children, there was no basement, and people nearly were shot, okay, when this person tried to get into that pizza place. Okay, so that's the violence. That's right-wing violence right there. Okay, and so look, here's the thing: those movements, even those movements, right, that have done violence, sovereign citizens, for example, are not labeled as domestic terrorism. You know why? It's because there is no federal law that actually concerns domestic terrorism. There is a statutory definition for it in Title 18 of the U.S. Code, but there is no federal criminal provision that expressly prohibits what they call domestic terrorism. This is according to a Congressional Research Service report from December of 2023 titled Understanding and Conceptualizing Domestic Terrorism Issues for Congress. So there you go. It also adds that while domestic terrorism is defined in federal statute, the term domestic terrorist is not used to officially label any group as it is with foreign terrorist organizations. It's according to their own guidance. All right. For a group to be listed in the U.S. State Department's foreign terrorist organizations list, which includes ISIS and Al-Qaeda, it has to be obviously a foreign organization. It's according to the latest guidelines that were issued just this month. So, I don't know, man. Seems like Trump can't really do that. Okay, he can't really label whoever he wants as a domestic terrorist. Okay, but it doesn't mean that he's not going to try. I mean, I wonder, though, if they're going to try to, in order to justify this, look overseas, like China, for example, or something. Maybe they're going to try to claim that, you see, Antifa is actually being funded by Chinese nationals or something. I don't know. I don't really think it's outside the bounds of reason for this administration to lie and make things up. Now, Hoffman noted that Antifa, in any event, is not an organization, has no identifiable leadership or command and control structure or finances. In other words, the terrorist organizational attributes that designation is designed to undermine and dismantle. In sum, there is no legal way, at least for now, that Antifa can actually be designated a terrorist organization, except rhetorically. And that's it. Nance also posted this on Twitter/X, quote, "You cannot designate an idea as a terrorist group. There is no organization called Antifa. There is no leadership or funding path. There is no membership. Also, there is no law in America to charge terrorism." There you go. Now, what he is doing, Nance added, is setting the stage to designate any American as a terrorist. That is fascism. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Now, here's the thing, though. Should we be taking this seriously? Absolutely. In fact, here's CNN's David Axelrod, who is saying, yes, this is a very serious thing, and we should be paying attention to it.
I think we owe it to the president, we owe it to the people around him to take him seriously. He's been saying not just before, but since the Kirk assassination, but before it, that he was going to go after, say, George Soros, because he said he was funding agitators. And this thing tonight, this post, should not be dismissed, because what it means is he will define, just as they will define the public interest, they will define what is Antifa, and they will go after everyone and everything that they put under that umbrella, even though it isn't an organization. It is in many ways3mythology, but it gives them a pretext to go after their political enemies. And Ram said, Kara said, well, voters have a say. They do have a say, but this is going to be a major effort to try and defund any opposition in this country by doing it under this rubric of Antifa and the radical left.
Bingo! That's the reality of this push. This is what they're doing. They're using the unfortunate, tragic death of Charlie Kirk as a way to attempt to crush all dissent against them. Okay? That's it. Look, if you're on the right and you're cheering this on, you might want to stop and think for a second. I know that can be a little difficult, all right? Especially when you're hopped up on them emotions, man. You're hopped up on joy. Yeah, I'm seeing my political enemies get crushed. Yes, I love it. Oh, it's the only joy that I ever have in my life. Well, you got to remember that they will eventually come for you. If you are not sufficiently pure, if you are not sufficiently 100% loyal. Again, even having 99% loyalty towards Donald Trump is not going to save you. You see, the way that fascism actually works is that there always has to be an external threat. You always have to have someone to hate, someone to fear, and someone to target. What happens when they actually do get rid of those threats? They crush the left, okay? They crush Antifa. They destroy trans people, They get rid of all those things. All the immigrants are gone. Then what? Well, they always have to come up with a new threat. Because without a new threat, the right wing, the fascists, I should say, lose their ability to distract from the fact that they're actually really bad at governing. Okay? They're bad at governing, but they don't care. They don't care because all it is just them trying to stay in power. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.